This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 409 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we're going to be jumping into how to feel more energized as a female entrepreneur with Brandy Stamper. I am so excited about this conversation. With this coming out in September, many of you have gone back, kiddos have gone back to school. You're starting to really feel like you're getting into the swing of things. And it's also where we can start to feel burnt out. So I want you to make sure that you are listening to this episode, putting the strategies into place so that you really can start to continue to move forward in your joy for life and in your business. All right, let's jump in. Hi, Brandy. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I am well, Jenny. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm excited to have this conversation about how to feel more energized as a female entrepreneur. But before we do that, will you actually introduce yourself and your business to my audience?
Absolutely. So my name is Brandy Stamper, and I am a leadership and executive coach. So what I do is I help women and men as well, but women tends to be my forte, right? I help them up-level the leadership in a way that is fun and sustainable, that really fits for them. So we work on a number of different things, but really it's about rising with that clarity, leading with that connection, and also thriving as a confident leader.
Excellent. Perfect. All right. Well, so let's just kind of jump right into the conversation. What unique challenges do female entrepreneurs face when it comes to maintaining energy and avoiding burnout?
Such a good question. It's all the things, right? But really, a lot of it does come down to when we first think about for females. There's this idea of this good girl conditioning. And then, of course, if you're a mom, there's the super mom or the superwoman mom. But it really starts with this good girl conditioning of the idea of society, and it could be conscious or unconscious. Our parents, our friends, our colleagues really kind of push this idea of being, quote unquote, a good girl. And the idea of being a good girl is someone who takes care of everybody else, puts themselves last, has to work really, really hard to do all the things because they can handle all the things. They're a great multitasker, but do not need to take time for themselves. And really, it's like almost like what we hear, people pleaser, right? Doing everything to please others, those types of things. So it starts from a young age, right? And we're conditioned in a way for that. And so when we decide to open up our own business and do our own thing, as a female entrepreneur, we have this underlying good girl conditioning happening. And from there, we feel like we have to do and be everything for everybody. So much to the point that we give our energy away to other people and we don't reserve that for ourselves. And then we hit this point of burnout. And then it takes this idea of burnout to be like, oh my God, I need to do something. But then sometimes we don't fully do what we need to do. And we stay in this burnout loop where we get a little better. And then we're like right back in it, get a little better, right back in it. So our biggest challenge, I think, for women or female entrepreneurs is really understanding why you're doing what you're doing based on that good girl conditioning and finding strategies to really help you maintain your energy and to either get out of that burnout loop or to stop burnout in its tracks before you go too far.
I definitely see this with quite a lot of my clients. And I think it's one of the things we always have to attack is, why are you doing all the extra things? Do you really feel that that's where you're going to gain energy from? Or is it going to suck some of that energy away from you? And you just feel like you have to do it because it's what's expected, whether it's serving on PTO or doing all of the practices, or cleaning your house, even finding those ways to really decipher why you're doing what you're doing. So how does the intersection of gender roles and societal expectations impact the energy levels of female entrepreneurs?
Yeah. And so I kind of led into that already. I already uh, talked about with the good girl conditioning. But when we think about gender roles, typically women are socialized to be the caregivers, the nurturers, right? So I always equate this back to because I teach at a university as well. And so I'm a communication studies professor. And so we talk about the things that we say to little girls in the playground versus boys. So if you compare it, for example, if a little girl falls down, skins her knee, and begins to cry, in most cases, not always, we're like, "Oh, honey, it's okay. It's just a little scratch. You'll be fine. Let's get back on it." Look at that tone and the way we approach it versus a little boy, same situation, skins his knee, comes up crying. It's like, "Oh, you're not bleeding. You're fine. There's no bone showing. You're okay. Get back up and get at it." Right? And so, um, and so that's where that conditioning starts, is that to be a nurturer, it's okay if those things happen. It's okay to show that emotion versus a boy will be like, no, don't show emotion. That shows weakness, which is, not true. We won't go there. But so that's where it kind of starts. And then those societal expectations of, as a female, as a woman, you are responsible, quote unquote, for the home duties, to take care of the things in the home, if you have children, to take care of all the things for your children, making sure that you have a spotless house for when people come over, when it really that doesn't matter. So what happens in our society is that, especially for females, we become so distracted with all the other things happening that we don't focus on the pieces that truly matter, that really bring us that energy, and farm out or delegate out, if you will, things that will help bring our energy back, and put us really in our zones of genius, right? We're too busy letting thinking that we need to do everything for everybody, or do everything because we do it best. Um, but in the end, even if we do a really good job at it, it doesn't really help us thrive in that sense. So there's a lot of different things that happen when we're young, what we see, and even with our partners. Like, for example, my husband, I do the laundry. And I like the way I do the laundry. If I let my husband do the laundry, he does not fold the towels the way that I want them folded. And it like drives me crazy because I'm perfect and da da da. But that's something I had to recognize for myself. I'm like, well, does it really matter if the towels are not folded perfectly? Because in the end, we're going to use them. And I can spend my time either on my business or time with my kids rather than dealing with whether if a towel is folded or not. So those are the things that you have to start assessing and looking at. It's almost like a life audit, right? Of those different pieces.
That's such a great example because that's definitely something that you have to have those conversations with your partner, right? About who's going to take on what roles and when we're going to let things slide and when we're not, and when it gets to a point where it drives you too crazy to be able to maintain some balance at home. So, what are some practical strategies for managing stress and boosting energy levels throughout the day?
A couple of strategies are, one is to do like an audit, if you will, of what you do during your day, right? So from the moment you get up till the moment you go to bed, literally write down everything that you do. And then from there, decide what is something that you absolutely have to do that no one else can do. Um, and then also look at the things that you say, okay, well, I don't have to do the laundry. Someone else could do that, and put that in a separate list. And then from there, I even say, once you have that list of things you absolutely have to do, go back and look at it again. Because sometimes we think we absolutely have to have dinner. We have to make dinner because it needs to be a nutritious meal. Is that true? Like, do you have to do it every day or every night? So then I say break down that list even more. You've probably heard of Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, right? Do 20% of the activities that yield the 80% of your results. Similar, like your list of what you absolutely have to do is going to be fairly short compared to what you think you have to do. Then we take that other part of our list and we say, okay, what can I delegate out or give accountability or responsibility? So one thing, an example for me is So my husband, he has to go to San Diego for 3 months to work. So I'm a solo mom with two kids. And when I say it, I have a 9-year-old and 4-year-old. So I've got young ones who are in sports, who are doing all the things. We're doing this in May. So I call it Maycember, when everything happens in May, from teacher appreciation to all the things, right? And so when my husband left, like, I had to decide. I was like, okay, laundry, cooking, all these things, they're sucking my time that he would normally help with, that it's not there. So how can I delegate this out to make my life a little bit easier, to bring back my energy? But also so my kids don't see that I'm just a crazy person running around. And it dawned on me about laundry. I'm like, my son's 9 years old and my daughter's 4. They can help bring the clothes, put them in the wash machine, and I can teach my son how to wash and dry. And then we can learn how to fold together. We did this for 2 weeks, and now he can do his own clothes. And that has saved my energy, right? Because I was like, do clothes need to be done? Yeah, but do I need to have spotless to where no one has dirty clothes in their dirty clothes hamper for the whole week? No, it can wait. So that's where you have to have those tough conversations with yourself. And sometimes it's hard because we have to dig deep as to, well, why do I feel like I have to have clean clothes all the time? Where is that coming from? Is it because I'm trying to live to this up to this expectation of being the perfect mom that has everyone has clean clothes? So what's driving that? So that's one strategy that I always suggest, is really just do like a daily audit and see what you're doing that absolutely must be done every day versus what can you delegate. And that right there really helps with your energy. It's just one step. I have many more, but we'll just start with one.
No, I love that, because it is you when you're actually looking at all of the different things that you do and all the different hats that you wear, and determining what can be handed off or made so that it becomes a joint effort. It does make it a bit easier to kind of see where you can get that time back for yourself.
Hey there, guys. My name is Melanie from Mostly Under Control, and I am a member of Jenny's Influencer Entrepreneurs Insiders membership. I've been a part of it since 2017, and over these 6 years, I've taken full advantage of the weekly trainings that Jenny offers and the monthly group coaching. The group coaching is probably my favorite part of the membership. Jenny has taught me so many things for my business. She helped me niche down and write and teach about what I wanted so that I wouldn't burn out. In addition to what she teaches, the networking I've done with other members has been invaluable. I recommend her membership to all of my online business owner friends because it is worth every single penny.
Mhm.
So, how important is self care in maintaining high energy levels as a female entrepreneur? And what are some effective self care practices? Because when we hear self care, we as women often think, oh, I got to take a bath. And we know that that's not as simple as it gets. So, what would be some of your recommendations?
Absolutely. So, Um, why is self-care so important is because, again, we tend to give our energy away all day long to other people. And by doing that, we diminish ourselves. And you probably have heard you cannot fill from an empty cup, and all those other pieces. But it's very true. It's when you bring yourself to that point of you're always exhausted, or you're burned out, you're not giving your best self to the most important people. But in addition, you are just as important. Like, you are one of the important people. So you're not giving your best self to yourself and others. So it's really, really important to incorporate that self-care. And you're right. Self-care we hear is, oh, I'm going to get my nails done, or I'm going to get a massage, or have a spa day. Now, while all those are wonderful and I love them, I mean, whenever I ask for, when people say, what do you want for your birthday or for anniversary? I'm like, give me a spa day. You'll make me happy because I love those things. But self-care, when we talk about true self-care, it's really about doing things that bring you joy. And when I say joy, there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is something that we think is, well, we talk about, it's like fleeting. Like, you can do something that makes you happy, but then it goes back down. Joy is this constant state of feeling connected, feeling alive, feeling like you're being impactful, whatever that may be. So it's really effective self-care practices are things that bring you joy, that really raise your vibration, raise your energy. So when we talk about effective self-care strategies, number one is to think about yourself, what brings you joy. So for me, what brings me joy is sitting for 5 minutes alone in the morning before the kids get up and like meditating. So, but my meditation is not sitting there being quiet, because some people can't do that. That doesn't bring them joy. It feels like more of a chore. But for me, it is about doing like affirmations. So start saying about how my day is going to go. And that really puts me at a sense of ease. And that really like kind of centers me and I get ready. Another thing that brings me joy is working out. I like to move in the morning, whether if that's yoga, Pilates, lifting weights, doing something to get me moving. But another thing that brings me joy is going outside and putting my feet on the ground, being out in nature. So it's finding those small little joyful, I call them joy injections, that you can do every day, that don't take a lot of time, but it's something that you feel really good about. Because sometimes getting your nails done feels like a chore, in the sense of you got to make sure, if you have kids, that someone's watching the kids or can handle that. Trying to get an appointment and you call your person and they're booked for the whole week. You're like, well, that messed up my self-care for the day. Or those other pieces. So really finding something that brings you joy, even if it's like listening to a podcast or reading a book, whatever it is, find something that brings you joy that you can do throughout the day, just small little injections every day. That's where self-care happens. It's the daily things that you do, not just this one-time thing. Because if you do daily things, that will help re-energize and recharge you for the days that are really, really hard, or the weeks that are really, really hard, because you have that constant joy injection happening. And that is self-care. A lot of people think self-care is this big, grandiose thing, but actually it's just small little things that you do throughout the day that really help bring your energy back.
And when you said workout, I smirked, because that is absolutely mine. It's the one place that I know my brain will turn off. Everything fades away. I am very careful about blocking it. I can't get text messages that come through during that time. It's focused time for me so that there are no interruptions. And even when my kiddos are home, they know that if they hear me in the garage, they're not to come out and interrupt, because I'm going to really not answer pleasantly.
Yep.
That's my time. And it does give me energy. I was always one of those that loved to be active and used to play sports in college. So continuing to work out just does. It's a great way to say it, to bring me joy. So I kind of touched a little bit on it, even just for working out. But how can female entrepreneurs create boundaries between work and personal life to prevent energy drain and maintain some sort of balance?
Absolutely. So boundaries is such a fun word, right? A lot of people, when they hear boundaries, they'll either roll their eyes because they're like, yeah, whatever. Or they're like, I don't know how to set boundaries, because we hear this so many times. So the one thing I want to really just have everybody think about is, what is a boundary to you and what does that mean to you? Because one, when I'm working with my clients as a leadership coach, I utilize the Enneagram as an assessment to really help them find out their communication style, leadership style, and to understand what type of energy that they have and where they go in times of stress and so forth. Because even with leaders, we're talking about boundaries with leaders, right? And boundaries look different depending on your dominant energy style from the Enneagram. Like, for example, a 2 who is a helper, they dispel their energy so much more than maybe a 3 or a 4, because they want to help everyone. They want to do all these things for people. So a boundary for them is vastly different than a boundary for me. For example, I'm a 3. I can become a workaholic, and I've got to know when to set that boundary, because it can bleed into my personal life. So first, I would say, one, ask yourself what a boundary means to you, right? And from there, start to work. See what's happening in your life that you feel like you're drained and why you're drained. So if you feel like you're putting so much time at work and nothing is happening, right? And you want more time with your children, you want more time with your partner, your spouse, find a time to say, okay, I'm going to set a boundary that I'm going to work on this, or I'm going to stop work at 4 p.m. Right. And I'm going to spend time afterwards. So for me, I tend to be a workaholic. So I will make sure that clients, everyone knows that 4 p.m. I'm done and I'm with my family, and then I will answer email or whatever the next day. So that's one way. So figuring out that piece, for like what you said, for working out. So when I work out, if my kids do get up and they hear me back there, they know that nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to get answered unless it is an absolute emergency and we need to go to the hospital. They know just to hang out. So it is figuring out what works for you and what a boundary means to you. So for female entrepreneurs, I would assume that a lot of female entrepreneurs tend to try and do everything for everybody and do everything for their business. So part of being a leader as an entrepreneur is moving from this doer to leader mindset. And part of that mindset is establishing a boundary to say, okay, what can I possibly delegate as a leader that I do not need to do, and create a boundary for that so I can work in my zone of genius, or I can have that energy and that balance and that time. So those boundaries could be have someone else do your social media for you, or it could be like to balance home and personal life, have someone come clean your house every 2 weeks. It doesn't have to be every week, but it could be every 2 weeks, because that's taking away that time that you have to spend to do that, to spend it towards something else. So boundaries look different for everyone. Really assess what it means to you and where it's needed from like that life audit.
Yes, I love that suggestion. I think too, part of it can be seasonal, at least for me. It very much becomes like when the girls are home for the summer, that's the time that I'm making sure I'm not doing any podcast interviews. I'm not trying to record any of my solo episodes. Everything is scheduled ahead of time. I mean, we just said that we're recording in May and this episode won't come out until September, because I have strict boundaries in place for the summer, knowing that, yes, it could be done. My girls are older now, but they're still in and out of the house and the dogs are going bananas. And then I get crazy over it and take something out on them that it really isn't their fault. So I think it can definitely be seasonal too, based on where you are and what's going on. I do the same thing around Christmas time when they're going to be home. And that, just kind of being a little bit more strict with what you allow into your calendar and schedule and the way you choose to do things.
Absolutely.
So tell me more about your From Exhausted to Energized freebie. What can our listeners expect to learn from that? We're going to link to that on the show notes, and everyone listening knows that they can send me a DM on Instagram and I will send it directly to you as well. But just tell us a little bit about what we can expect to learn from that.
Absolutely. So this guide is really jam-packed with some of the practical tips that we talked about, but a couple more. So really, I offer just some simple strategies to help you manage your time better, set those boundaries, and really prioritizing your self-care, helping you boost that productivity without really sacrificing your well-being. So it's really perfect for anyone who feels overwhelmed or feel like they're on the track to burnout. And it gives you those actionable steps to really help regain that balance or take back that energy that you're giving away. So, for example, one strategy that we talk about are about phones and when to cut them off or to not bring them into the bedroom or whatever it may be. And we talk a little bit about that. So it's really great, gives you some really nice, simple strategies to really help begin that process. And there's also a little piece at the end of that little life audit as well to help you kind of figure out what do you need to do to get some of your energy back.
Excellent. We are going to make sure that that is linked so that everybody can grab that. I appreciate you, Brandy, so much for taking the time to speak with me and share your knowledge with my audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Jenny. It's been awesome.
All right. Well, there you have it. I hope you were able to take some meaningful strategies away from this episode and start to apply them so you really can start to feel your energy coming back and continuing not only in your personal life, but also through your business. If you haven't already grabbed Brandy's Energizer freebie, make sure that you do. You can simply hop over to the show notes and we will make sure that you grab that. I appreciate you all so much, as always, for listening in. If you haven't already left a rating and review, I would appreciate it if you did so. Just quick, right in your podcasting app, a couple sentences just telling me what your biggest takeaway from this episode was. All right, until next time, I will see you all then.